Hi students, today we will learn about ions. What are ions and how they are formed? First of all, in start of our topic, we can define ions as atom or group of atoms. It may be a single atom or maybe a group of atoms which carry either positive or negative charges. Positive or negative charges. We can define ions, a single atom or group of atoms which carry either positive or negative charges. For example, in our example, we can say a sodium atom, and if it has a positive charge, then it will be called as an ion. Similarly, oxygen, and if it has negative charge, that will be an ion. Similarly, we can say calcium, and if has charge, it will be a positive ion. Similarly, if we talk about the group of atoms like carbonates, it is also called ions. Similarly, phosphates. Similarly, NH4 plus, all these are examples of ions. And in our definition, we can say that a single atom or group of atoms which carry either positive or negative charges, these are called ion. And if we talk about the types of ion, as in earlier we have explained that it can have positive or negative charges. On this basis, we can classify the ions into two types. Number one, positive ion, and it may be called as cation. Positive ion or cation. And the second type is negative ion or anion. In first of all, negative ion or anion. And first of all, we will talk about the positive ion or cation and how it is formed and which type of atoms can form positive ion or cation. Positive ion or cation may be defined as an atom or group of atom or group of atoms which carry positive charge. Group of atoms which carry positive charge. Cation or positive ion, it may be a single atom or group of atoms which have positive charge are called as positive ion or cations. And how these are formed and which type of elements can form positive ion or cation. In our example, we put first of all the sodium. As we know, sodium it is an atom, and we know atom is electrical neutral. In our first example, we can explain how sodium is neutral. And we can say that sodium, its atomic number is 11. I can draw the diagram of sodium atom to explain the formation of positive ion. Sodium atom has 11 proton and 11 electrons. Protons are present in nucleus and electrons are present out of nucleus in shell or orbits. Like in my example, it has 11 proton, 2, 8 and 1. P shell, L shell and M shell. We can see that sodium is electrically neutral because it has 11 protons present within the nucleus and 11 electrons which are present out of nucleus, and number of positive charges and negative charges are equal. That's why it have no charge. And when we remove or knock out the electron from its outermost shell, like sodium, and it has one electron in its outermost shell, and when sodium removes one electron from its outermost shell, then we can see that the number of protons are 11, but number of electrons are remain 10. it has one proton more than that of electrons. That's why, because one proton is higher than the electrons, it's why it may have positive charge. And similarly, when an atom can lose two or more electrons, then it will have two or three charges. It can form dipositive ion or tripositive ion. Like in our second example, we put the example of calcium. Calcium is electrical neutral. It has 20 electrons, and I can say that its electronic configuration is like this. And when we remove two electrons from its outermost shell, then it will have form a dipositive ion, like in my example. So we can say when an atom loses one or more electron, then it will be formed as a unipositive ion, dipositive ion, tripositive ion, and so on. And now we can see that when an atom loses electron, it forms positive ion, and we can also explain on this basis that the size of cation is smaller than the size of its parent atom. Size of cation is always smaller than the size of its parent atom. Smaller than size of its parent atom. Why? Why size of cation is smaller than the size of its parent atom? We can see that when an atom loses electron, like in our example sodium or calcium, then the number of protons increased and number of electrons decreased. And we can see that the protons are present within the nucleus, and nucleus attracts the electron toward itself with a force that is called nuclear attraction. And when we remove electron from the outermost shell of any atom, then the protons are increased and electrons are decreased. Then the nucleus attracts the remaining electron more strongly toward itself. Because why? Because the nucleus has more protons than the number of electrons. And that's why the electrons present out of the nucleus comes close toward the nucleus. And that's why the size of cation becomes smaller than the size of its neutral atom. Like in our example, sodium or calcium, when they lose electron, then they form cations, and their sizes become smaller than the size of their parent atom, because nucleus attracts more strongly the electron present in the outermost shell. Now, which type of atoms, which type of elements can form positive ion or cations? We can see in our periodic table the elements which are called metals. Metals are those elements in our periodic table, metals. These are called electropositive. And why these are called electropositive? Because they have the tendency to lose electrons to form cations. And in our examples, as we see, sodium or calcium, they have unipositive charge and dipositive charge, and similarly they can lose more than two electrons in their outermost shell, and these are called electropositive elements of the periodic table, and they form cations or positive ions. And now we talk about our second type, that is called negative ion or anion. And negative ion or anion, first of all, we define what is negative ion or anion. We can define as a single atom or group of atoms. It may be a single atom or maybe a group of atoms which carry the negative charge. Is called as negative ion or anion. Like in our example, chloride ion, similarly oxide ion, similarly nitride ions, similarly and another examples we can see phosphate, or we can see as sulfate. All these are examples of negative ion or anions. And how negative ions or anions are formed? These are formed when an atom gains one or more electrons in outermost shell. When a neutral atom gain one or more electron in its outermost shell, then it has negative charge and called as negative ion or anion. First of all, in our example, we put the example of fluorine atom. Like fluorine, we know fluorine has atomic number 9 and it has 7 electron in its outermost shell. It needs 1 electron to complete its octet. That's why it gains 1 electron. And when 1 electrons come in its outermost shell, then it will carry the negative charge and will be called as ion. Why ion? Because it has negative charge. And how negative charge comes? When it gains 1 electron in its outermost shell. Why gain 1 electron? To complete its octet. Now it has 8 electron in its outermost shell and now become ions. Similarly, in second example, we can put the example of oxygen. Oxygen has atomic number 8 and it has 6 electron in its outermost shell. When it gains 2 electron to complete its octet, then it will carry negative charge and it will be called as ion, and now its shell becomes completed and octet is complete now, and it carry negative charge and it will be called as ion. And now we see why negative charge comes on atom, because we in our example, first of all, we take the example of fluorine. As we have explained earlier, it has 9 proton in its nucleus and it will have 9 electron in its outermost shell, in 2 electron in K shell and 7 electron in L shell. Now, when electron comes in its outermost shell, then what happened? Now, number of protons remains 9, but number of electrons becomes 10. And when electron increase in number than the protons, then due to more electron, this neutral atom will carry negative charge, and now it will be called as anion. And it depends upon the atom how number of electrons are required to complete its outermost shell. If it has 7 electrons, then it will need 1 electron, and if it has 6 electrons, then it will need 2 electrons to complete its octet. Now we can see that when a neutral atom gains 1 or more electron, now the size of anion after the gaining of electron is always larger than the size of its parent atom. Why the size of anion become more than the size of its parent atom? Now we can see when electrons comes in outermost shell, now the number of electrons increased, but the number of protons are less than the electron. Now nuclear attraction for the electron is less as compared to atom, and if the nuclear attraction is decreased or less, then the nuclear will attract the electron not more strongly, and that's why the electronic cloud will be expand and the electrons will move away from the nucleus, and that's why the size of anion will become larger than the size of its neutral atom. Why? Because due to more number of electrons, the nuclear attraction for the electron is decreased as compared to its neutral atom. That's why the electron will move away from the nucleus, and that's why its size will become larger than its parent atom. Now we see the charge comes on the neutral atom depends upon the number of electrons. If it gains 1 electron, then it will form uninactive ion. If it gains 2 electrons, it will form dinactive ion, and similarly trinactive ion. And now we see which type of elements of the periodic table can form the negative ion. These are called electronegative elements. As earlier we have explained, the atom which loses electron are called electropositive, and those atoms which gain electron are called as electronegative elements of the periodic table. And what are these elements? These are non-metals. And we see the non-metals which are present in periodic table, like the group number 5, 6, 7, these are most electronegative elements of the periodic table, and they gain the electron. Why gain electron? To complete their octets and to become the electronic configuration of their nearest global gases. Like in our example, we can say the elements of group number 6 and group number 7, these are called more electronegative elements of the periodic table. And why? Because they have some other size and higher nuclear attraction. That's why they have the more tendency to gain electron and to form the negative ion to complete their octets and to gain the nearest noble noble gas configuration. So, dear students, now in our topic today, we have explained, we have learned about the ion. What is ion and how these are formed, what are their types, and which type of elements can form positive ion or negative ion. And we have also explored, have learned why the size of cation and anions are changed after gaining or losing electron. In next lecture, we will talk about the molecular ions, and we have also learned about the ions in this lecture.